Constitution, dual and cooperative federalism. All right, so we have two different types of federalism now. Remember, firstly, that federalism, we're talking about division of powers between national, state, and local government. Hopefully by now you can say that before I even say it. Federalism, division of power between national, state, and local governments. Now we have two types, dual and cooperative. These are both kind of ideas of how federalism should work. It's not necessarily the way that they do work in practice. So the first idea we're going to discuss is dual federalism. It is also known as layer cake federalism. I know that sounds kind of silly, but look at the bottom right of this slide and you see two different pieces of cake. We have dual and we have cooperative. Now dual federalism, layer cake, it is on the left side. Again, that term layer cake, it has been on the AP test before, so you do need to know that layer cake is the same thing as dual federalism. They are used interchangeably. So the idea, just like on a layer cake, where you have vanilla and chocolate, the vanilla, it's very clear where the vanilla starts and stops, doesn't overlap, doesn't mix, doesn't mingle with the chocolate. It's the same thing with dual federalism, except instead of chocolate and vanilla, it's now state and national government. So the federal and state governments are each supreme, meaning they have the power, they are the highest ones, they have the authority in their own sphere or their own areas where they are given power. Their powers do not overlap. So the federal government, they have certain specific things they can do, and the states don't get involved with those. And the states have certain powers that they have, and the national doesn't get involved in those. That is the idea of dual federalism. We do not have dual federalism in this country. We haven't had it since at least the Great Depression. Some people would argue it even kind of went away as early as the Civil War, but this is kind of a past thing. We don't have dual federalism today. We have cooperative federalism. This is also known as marble cake federalism. So picture that marble cake. It was on the last slide, and it's also, you can see it's a little slice of it at the bottom. This is where it's mixed and mingled, like a marble cake, where you can't easily get a piece that's only vanilla or only chocolate. You're probably going to get a piece that has both of them. So this is where federal and states share responsibilities, costs, and administration of policies. So they work together. There is cooperation going on, taking place here. But the thing to know and to remember is that the federal government makes the rules. So who is getting stronger as a result of cooperative federalism? The answer to that is very, very simple. It is the federal government. They are getting more power, and in fact, they are taking away power from the states. So if you are a person that believes in states' rights, would you like cooperative federalism? The answer is no, you probably would not. So people who favor cooperative federalism tend to be people who favor greater national government power. People who favor states' rights, they tend to favor dual federalism. Now, we're going to talk about money a little bit. Obviously, money makes everything go round, so we have a term called fiscal federalism, fiscal money. Another term for this is grants and aid. So we're talking about when the federal government gives money to the states. That happens all the time. Federal money is spent by giving it to the states. Now, why would the federal government give money to the states? Well, it gives them more power. Just think about it. If you give somebody money and you're constantly giving them money and paying for them for everything, doesn't that give you a little bit of power over them? That maybe they should owe you a favor or they should do something if you want them to do it? Well, it's the same way with the federal government and with the states. The federal government is paying for these programs, so they get to tell the states how to do them. So this allows the federal government to have more power over the states in areas that they wouldn't have had power otherwise. Two examples of this fiscal federalism are two different types of grants. We have categorical grants and we have block grants. The first one to discuss is going to be categorical grants. This is when federal money is given to states for a specific purpose. So the federal gives money to the states and they tell them exactly what that money is for. This money is to build a new hospital in Pembroke Pines, Florida. That means the state cannot spend that money for anything else. Over 90% of money that the federal government gives to states comes in the form of categorical grants. Why? Why would Congress and the federal government prefer categorical? Well, we just said it, because they get to tell them what to do with that money. So they get to tell them exactly what to use it for, so it's money for a specific purpose. Again, gives the federal government more power. The other type, categorical grants continued. Okay, we have a couple things that go with this. We have conditions of aid. I'm trying to figure out why the McLovin picture is there. I don't remember why I made that. Maybe it'll come to me. Conditions of aid. These are strings attached. So this is what states have to do to receive the money. So basically, the federal government will say, hey, if you want to receive this $10 million, you need to do something for us. Technically, this is optional. The states can say no to this. In practice, in reality, they probably aren't going to turn down millions of dollars. They will probably say, okay, we'll do what you want, give us the money. The best example, and if you had an FRQ for this, what would be a good example to write about, would be the drinking age. The drinking age in this country used to be, or it still is, it's set by states, not the national government. Yet, that's probably why I did that, because it's a fake ID. Okay, so you have the drinking age is 21 through the whole country. Is that a coincidence that every single state decided to make their drinking age 21? No. Basically what happened is in the 1980s, President Reagan, they decided we need to have the drinking age be 21. And in some states, like in Florida, it was 18. And so what they did is they made it a condition of aid. The federal government was giving millions of dollars to every state for highways and construction. And they told them, if you want to keep getting that money for highways, you have to raise your drinking age. So guess what every single state did? They all raised their drinking ages. So they're saying that the money was more important than the rights of 18 to 20-year-olds to get drunk and to drink legally. So again, they could have said no, but reality says that they probably aren't going to. Lastly, we have funded or unfunded mandates. These are rules about what states have to do. They must do. A mandate is mandatory. It is not optional. And this is whether they receive money or not. So this is where the federal government simply makes a rule and tells the states, you have to do this, no questions asked. Do you think these are going to be popular with states? Of course not. States are having to do something and they have to pay for it. So not only are they losing power, but they're also losing money. So states really don't like these. Again, a really good example to write about for an FRQ would be the Americans with Disabilities Act. States really didn't like this law, not because they're anti-disabled people, but because they had to spend the money to change and give public access to disabled people in every single public building. So every school, every courthouse, etc., they all had to become wheelchair accessible. That's expensive, and the states had to pay for it. So they really resented that. So that's a good example of an unfunded mandate. We have block grants. All right, so we had to remember categorical and block. These are the two opposites. Categorical, money for a specific purpose. Now here's block grants. This is when that money is given to the states for a broad purpose. So instead of saying, here's money for a brand new hospital in Pembroke Pines, Florida, and you can only spend it on that, like the categorical grant I mentioned earlier, the block grant version of that would be, here's money for health care. A very, very broad category. And now the state has the option to spend it however they want within that area. So they still can't use that money for healthcare on schools, but they can use it for anything having to do with healthcare. So that means they can give people health benefits if they want health insurance. That means they can build new hospitals. It means that they can make renovations on multiple different hospitals. Whatever the case is, they have more options. So states like that because it gives them more power. So instead of money to build a school, now it's money for education. So states prefer block grants.